I, 36-year-old female, had a birthday a few weeks ago. For context, I am fortunate enough to be doing well enough with work that I am doing comfortably money-wise that I did not really need anything. However, I had several friends and family members that still wanted to give gifts. So I made a small list of ideas with some items ranging from $10 to $60, thinking the higher amount items would be picked up by people like my parents or husband, who are also doing fine. Enter sister-in-law, 30. I'll be honest, we aren't the closest. She is not doing very well living paycheck to paycheck. She frequently buys loads of stuff from places like Temu because it is cheap, not because she necessarily needs it. Inconsiderate may not be a 100% fair description of her as a giver because she's often in the right category. Like if one of the kids is into art, she will get them one of those art kits, but the cheapest one she can possibly find where all the paints and markers are dried out before you even open it. Lots of gifts like that, where it's the cheapest possible version of what you might have wanted. Or used items when not appropriate. Used books are awesome. Used makeup less so. The family has tried suggesting to her a few times that if she really wants to spend $10 on us, we would all really prefer to get one $10 item than 10 $1 items, you know? As the stuff she gifts often doesn't work or otherwise just becomes a burden to have to try to throw away / recycle. I didn't realize she'd gotten a hold of my birthday wish list until a gift arrived in the mail, a very cheap massager. Context: I have horrific chronic pain and go to a massage therapist frequently. I had put gift cards to my massage therapist on my list. I already have a nice massager and, to be honest, no need for one that didn't seem like it would work very long, so I thanked sister-in-law for the thought but asked if they might be able to return it. No gift receipt, as I already had one. And I said that she really didn't need to get me something. I said I appreciated the sentiment, but I'd prefer if they kept that money for themselves. Sister-in-law got very defensive, saying she'd got me something from my list and that I was an AH for rejecting her gift. I said I already had a massager that suited my needs well, and she said I was a snob because not everyone could afford the exact things on my list. I had not been expecting anything from her, but I had tried to provide ideas at several price points, as there are a couple other people in the family with tight budgets who still insisted on getting something. I reiterated I was happy to get birthday wishes from her, but she did not need to feel obligated to get me anything, and I would prefer she use that money for herself. She called me ungrateful and hung up. Hubby understands, but says I probably should have just accepted the gift and either tossed it quietly or given it away or something. But years of this kind of stuff made me feel like I had to say something. So, am I the idiot? Edit for additional context. Sister-in-law doesn't have kids of her own. She's single and lives with roommates, kids in post, or nibblings. She has an okay job, not the greatest, but her financial situation is more because of shopping habits than her job. This camera was only $5, so I had to get it because it was such a steal type stuff. But then it never turns on and they won't return, so she's out that money. Also, if this had been the first time something like this had happened, I of course would not have said anything. I'll admit I was a bit tired after having tried to say no several times to gifts and getting things like used makeup, thrifted used sheet set for a size of bed I don't have, a Temu smartwatch that did not work even though she knew I already had a watch I loved, a used cookbook, which would have been wonderful if it wasn't moldy. She sees these items as steals and doesn't see why someone wouldn't want something like makeup used by a stranger. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. I was thinking maybe a very soft YTA, but used makeup? That's unhealthy and can literally be dangerous. Something with mold on it? I've been where your sister-in-law is financially, and I get that it's challenging to find gifts, but EWU just no. And I find it hard to believe an adult wouldn't recognize that used makeup and moldy books are never appropriate gifts. And as someone who's not wealthy but doing okay financially now, yes, families and friends sometimes want to give gifts even if you don't want or need anything. And that's more than okay. I think sharing things from a wish list is fine in that situation. It'd be different if you were the one reaching out to them saying, hey, here's what I want for my birthday, but I like to get gifts for the people I care about. And something like this would be a huge help figuring out what to get them. Going with NTA, comment 2, NTA. If you don't have a use for something because you have it, it's not practical for her to continue to spend her money. I come from a big family. I'm well off, but my mom insists on getting the cheapest things out there and things I would never in a million years purchase. She at one point bought my 10 and 12-year-old things from the thrift store that were heavily used. I had to tell her I appreciated her trying. But if she wanted to do something, then do $1.05. 00 McDonald's, or insert food chain here, and the kids can just get them a quick meal one night. Clothes would not fit because they would be the correct size, but because a previous person washed them wrong and/or would add their own sewing, nothing was ever practical. I grew up very poor, but I had to tell her because she was just wasting money that could be more useful somewhere else. Now for the update. Thanks for sticking around for more of this saga. So after the whole mess with the cheap massager, I thought things would cool down. But no, my sister-in-law, let's call her Jane, decided to double down. She threw a dinner party, and guess who was the guest of honor? Me. She made a big show of giving me another gift, this time in front of everyone. It was a set of those $10 wireless earbuds you see at the checkout line in the grocery store. My heart sank. I already have a pair I love, and these were notorious for their terrible battery life and even worse sound quality. I plastered on a smile, thanked her, and the evening dragged on. But later, when I was alone with my husband, I couldn't hold back. I told him how humiliated I felt, how Jane's actions seemed like a jab at me, and how tired I was of pretending to appreciate these thoughtless gifts. He sighed, said he understood, but reminded me that Jane's pride was easily wounded and that maybe I should just let it go. The next day, I found out why Jane had been so insistent on giving me those earbuds. My cousin, who works at the same company as Jane, let slip that Jane had been bragging about getting a huge bonus. A bonus she spent on a brand new designer bag for herself. The resentment bubbled up inside me. Here she was, living paycheck to paycheck, but she could splurge on a luxury item while giving me dollar store gifts and making me out to be the bad guy for not accepting them with open arms. But then the news dropped. My cousin continued, saying that Jane's bonus wasn't exactly earned. She'd taken credit for a project she barely contributed to, throwing a colleague under the bus in the process. My blood boiled. Not only was she being cheap with her gifts, but she was also dishonest and had hurt someone else to get ahead. I was ready to confront her, to tell her off for everything. But before I could, another twist hit me like a ton of bricks. The colleague she'd sabotaged? It was my cousin's best friend, who'd just been laid off because of the fallout. The injustice of it all was overwhelming. I wanted to scream, to tell Jane exactly what I thought of her. But then I saw her at a family gathering, laughing and oblivious to the pain she'd caused. And something in me just broke. I realized that exposing her wouldn't bring my cousin's friend their job back. It wouldn't change who Jane was. So I did the only thing I could. I forgave her. Not because she deserved it, but because I couldn't carry the weight of that anger anymore. I felt weak, desperate even, as I let it all go. But I had to move on. I couldn't let Jane's actions dictate my life. So I smiled, I nodded, and I kept the peace. And when I got home, I donated those earbuds to a local charity. Maybe they'd bring someone else a little bit of joy. Thanks for reading through this latest chapter. My sister accuses me of dooming her to be alone because I won't allow plus ones at my wedding. So I expose her affair with my fiance's sister's married ex and watch as karma does its work. Okay, so here it goes. I, 34-year-old female, hope I did that right, Lowell, and marrying my fiance, 28-year-old male, later this year. I have two older sisters, one who is 36 and married with 2 kids. The other is 38, divorced with no kids. The eldest one has always had issues with relationships. She either gets into long-term relationships for the wrong reasons with the wrong guys, or she has short-term ones and they leave her. She struggles with her mental health and either treats guys terribly or she clings so hard that they run for the hills. My fiance and I are mostly paying for the wedding ourselves, so we have had to keep the numbers down. If we go over our current number, then the venue charges an additional $10,000. For this reason, we have not allowed any plus ones. 99% of the people coming are married or dating, and we both know both people. It's not just a good friend with a partner. There are maybe 7 single people who are invited. One is my sister, and the other 2 are my fiance's sister and stepbrother. Last night, my sister asked if she could bring someone, and we told her unfortunately she can't due to the financial constraints of our venue with numbers. To say she was upset was an understatement. She cried and told me it's unfair and that I'm basically telling her, fuck you, you'll be alone forever. We tried explaining that she's not the only one, but she didn't want to listen. My mom told her that if she meets someone, then she can pay for him herself, which we then firmly reminded her that it's not just paying for the food, it's the extra $10,000, plus the rooming allocation would have to change, as we've got her in shared accommodation, table numbers, etc. Background. We aren't the closest of siblings. Neither sisters are in the wedding party. My fiance said to my mom that either way, my sister wouldn't be happy. No +1, and she hates us for telling her she's going to be single forever. Give her a +1 and then she hates us because chances are very, very low that she'll have anyone to bring. Because our wedding numbers are low, we have not had one cancellation. So far we can't guarantee that if she had a boyfriend by then, that we would have space. She was so upset the whole day that she then announced she doesn't want to come on the Friday where we will be having a bit of a pre-wedding party for everyone to meet and have some fun. It's a weekend away wedding, and said she'll just show up Saturday morning. Keeping in mind that she then can't get a lift with my other sister, you need four-wheel drive to access the venue, and she will then have to leave her vehicle at a different property, which will have to be paid for. And then the morning of my wedding, we'll have to organize someone to drive 30 minutes to go fetch her. Seriously, am I the jerk for not giving her a +1? Edit. We are from South Africa. The venue is at a game lodge, which is approximately 1.5 hours from any kind of town. That's why I can't just book another transfer or find somewhere else to stay. Hence the $10,000 policy. More had to be brought in and done. Yes, one extra person for $10,000 sounds like a lot, but I think it's a money thing. If you're going to pay a lot more for someone, then you might as well invite an additional 10 people, same price increase for up to 10 people. And then the venue makes money on the fact that you then need to pay additionally for their food. I do love my sister, but for 34 years it has been a competition between her, my older sister, and myself. I can never just do my own thing. There is always comparison. 34 years of pandering to someone else who won't take responsibility for their actions or lonely life. At her wedding, I had no +1. The other sister was already married. Yeah, it would have been nice to have a partner, but it was at an extra cost to her, so we weren't allowed. I knew immediate family only. Her wedding, I was told I had to dance with the awkward cousin of the groom. I'm not forcing her to do anything. Tables are set in a way that family all sits together. His parents are divorced, so each side has a separate table with the parents, siblings, and one set of aunt and uncle. She won't be seated at a table with strangers. She is in one of the nicest rooms at the venue, as we wanted her to feel nice on the day. She and the other sister aren't expected to decorate, plan, nothing. Believe me, they wouldn't want to. Seriously, we have done everything to accommodate her, but still, she makes my wedding about her and throws a fit on my birthday when she hears then. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Not the idiot. Your wedding, your guest list. She seems to have forgotten she's not the main character here. So did your mom. And of course, neither would pony up the $10,000. They'd rather you uninvite someone else just in case your sister finds someone? Now this tantrum about not coming to this pre-wedding party, let her sulk. You will regret forever trying to move things around to accommodate someone who will wind up not showing up anyway because she can't find a date. Comment 2. Not the idiot. She wants an invite for someone she doesn't even know yet that might want to come. No? If I started dating someone and they said they had a wedding a few weeks in, I'd completely understand if there wasn't room for me, in the budget or at the venue. It would be nice to come, but I'm not going to throw a tantrum like a child. And if I saw a potential partner have one on my behalf, I'd be having second, third, and fourth thoughts. Now, for the update, thanks for sticking around for the update. So remember how my sister threw a fit about the +1 situation? Well, things escalated. Turns out, she had been secretly seeing someone for months. A guy who, get this, used to date my fiance's sister. She was planning to bring him as a surprise, which would have been a disaster. When she finally spilled the beans, it was like a bomb went off. My fiance's sister was livid, accusing my sister of betrayal and backstabbing. The drama was unreal. But wait, it gets worse. My sister's new beau had a secret of his own. He was still married, not separated, not filing for divorce, but fully married. When his wife found out, she showed up at our house demanding answers. My sister was there, and the confrontation was something out of a movie. Accusations flew, tears were shed, and in the end, my sister's relationship crumbled publicly and messily. Amidst all this, my wedding was approaching, and I was trying to keep it together. My fiancé and I were stressed, to say the least. We had to deal with the fallout, comfort his sister, and somehow keep our own plans on track. It was a mess. Then the day before the wedding, another shocker. My other sister, the one with the seemingly perfect life, confessed that her marriage was on the rocks. She had been putting on a brave face, but behind closed doors, they were fighting nonstop. She was considering leaving her husband, but didn't know how to handle it with the kids. The wedding day itself was a blur. Somehow we managed to pull it off without any more drama. It was beautiful, and for a moment we could all forget the chaos that had led up to it. But the peace was short-lived. The day after the wedding, my newly exposed sister decided to take a bold step. She packed her bags and left her husband. It was a shock to everyone, especially her kids. Our family was reeling from one revelation after another, and it felt like we were in a never-ending soap opera. In the aftermath, I couldn't help but feel a mix of emotions. There was relief that my wedding was over, sadness for my sister's pain, and a deep resentment towards my eldest sister for nearly ruining everything with her selfishness. I had tried to be understanding, but it was hard not to feel like she had almost sabotaged my special day for her own gain. Now, as the dust settles, we're all trying to find our footing again. My sisters are dealing with their respective heartaches, and I'm trying to navigate married life while supporting them. It's not easy, but we're getting through it one day at a time. Thanks for reading. My baby's father ditched us during pregnancy, but when he dragged me to court over the last name, I had the judge teach him a lesson in responsibility and made him watch as I legally secured our future without him. Long story short, I, 30-year-old female, was head over heels in love with the father, 31-year-old male, and we planned our life and children together. But 5 days after we discovered I was pregnant, he dumped me and hasn't been involved since. When I asked what happened and what changed, all I got was, life happened. I don't know what that means, and I don't really care anymore. I've seen him twice since we found out in November 23, and the baby is due in July 24. I invited him to my last ultrasound, which is the second out of 2 times, and he surprisingly showed up, so we were on okay terms. He asked me if I had any names picked out for the baby, and I told him my options, which included my last name. And he said, "Wait, you're not giving the child my last name?" My response was, 1, we are not married, and 2, he hasn't been there for me through this pregnancy at all. He ignores me or gives me the silent treatment for weeks or a month at a time. His response was that marriage has nothing to do with it, and he has been preparing for the baby. But if I knew how he was preparing, I would say it's just stocking up on diapers. However, he thinks it's crazy that I'm not giving the baby his last name. I believe that marriage does play a big role in the child's last name. Not that we have to be married right away, but us building a life together and having a stable future leading to marriage would be more considerable. And clearly that's not happening, and I've come to accept that. The fact that he has been absent through my pregnancy also plays a huge role. Pregnant women need a lot of support, and I've been navigating this all on my own. My mom passed away when I was a teenager, and my father hasn't been the same since, so I don't have that kind of moral or life support. We need physical, mental, and emotional support to get through this life-changing time. He doesn't check up on us or ask if we need anything. We're pretty much out of sight, out of mind. All he said was okay, and I left the conversation with maybe we can hyphenate it. Time will tell. But he has reverted back to giving me the silent treatment and hasn't talked or answered me since. Am I really the jerk for giving the baby my last name? I feel like it's a privilege to have a child and be a part of creating and preparing for a new life. It's not just handed to someone because they want it. And if he wanted to be involved so badly for the baby to have his last name, he would. I'm a firm believer in if they wanted to, they would. So I don't understand how it's such a big deal and crazy for my last name to be the given last name. Now, for a few comments before the update, comment 1, not the jerk. I've never met a mom who ended up giving her baby her last name say she regretted it. But I have those who did and regret it. If he steps up and really changes once the baby is here, in every aspect, both of you can always change it. But going based on his actions, he doesn't sound very interested in the baby as it is. Do whatever you think is right when the time comes. It's only your decision. Comment 2, not the jerk. Please make this clear with your doctor and the hospital where you're giving birth. Frankly, I wouldn't let him know when you go into labor. This is your choice legally, and frankly, he hasn't earned it. You and the baby must take precedence. Don't let him stress you out. I'm concerned too about his plans for the baby. Be very cautious. Now, for the update. Thanks for sticking around for more of my story. So a lot has happened since I last wrote. Things took a turn when my ex, the baby's father, decided to take me to court over the last name issue. He claimed he had rights and wanted to be involved, but his actions said otherwise. The court date was set for a month out, and I was a mess of nerves. Meanwhile, my dad, who's been distant since my mom passed, suddenly showed up at my door. He heard about the court situation and wanted to help. It was the first time in years I saw him trying to be part of my life again. We talked for hours and he shared stories about my mom I never knew, like how she fought for everything she believed in, including keeping her last name when they got married. It gave me strength. The day of the court hearing arrived, and my ex showed up with a lawyer. He was all business, no sign of the man I once loved. His lawyer argued that a father's name is his legacy. But when it was my turn, I spoke from the heart about everything. His absence, my struggles, and my desire for the baby to have a stable identity. Then out of nowhere, my dad stood up. He told the judge about our family history, how we've always been fighters and survivors. He said that this baby deserved to be part of a family that was present, not just in name. The judge listened, nodding along. After what felt like an eternity, the judge ruled in my favor. The baby would have my last name, but my ex would have visitation rights. It was a bittersweet victory. I was relieved, but it also meant he'd be in our lives, whether I liked it or not. The surprise came a week later. My ex showed up at my door not to argue or fight, but to apologize. He admitted he was scared and handled everything wrong. He brought baby clothes, not just diapers this time, and asked if he could help set up the nursery. I was cautious, but I let him in. We spent the day together, and for the first time in months, it felt like we were a team. He promised to be there for both of us, and I wanted to believe him. But I knew only time would tell if he'd keep his word. Thanks for reading about the roller coaster I've been on. If you liked this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.